Hey, Nicole Huntsman here from moderncosmic.com. I've got your forecast for this week. This is Thanksgiving week for those of us in the United States, November 22nd through November 28th. We've got a few exciting things happening this week. We've got our sun moving into Sagittarius, and it will be joining Mercury, which is also in Sagittarius. We've got a Gemini full moon this month. Our moon starts out in Aries and makes its way through until it lands in Cancer next Saturday. So a lot of exciting things that we have to talk about on this video, and let's get started with our overall sort of themes for the week, these longer, slower transits first, and then we'll move into the day-by-day forecast. I'm going to call this week Here Be Monsters, because this is a fairly volatile week, but it's also one where delusion and possible paranoia and or fanaticism are sort of fueling the flames of the fire, so to speak. So this is a week I've been looking at for a while, as have many other astrologers. There are some interesting formations. So starting off this week, we do have, I'm going to be looking at my notes, by the way, sorry, I have to, or else I'll miss things. But we've got Jupiter, Uranus, quincunx, and this is that separating. It's separating currently, and that's sort of this shooting things or shooting off half-cocked is what I like to call this. Okay, this is Jupiter's expansion of something, and Uranus's unexpected sort of in Aries revolutionary events. So this energy, or this formation rather, is separating right now. We've also got Saturn, which is of course in Sagittarius, and we will have it. You're going to notice more and more of these themes for the next about 3 years or so while Saturn is in Sagittarius. These themes of self-righteousness, or sort of what is informing your personal set of rules. Okay, so people sort of imposing their idea of how they think things should be done upon you. That could be themes with this Saturn Sagittarius, but also it sort of forces you to look at, oh, well, what are my own sort of set of rules spiritually, as far as my path with religion, or, you know, am I going to take more of an intuitive approach with my questions about existence? Okay. With this Saturn Sagittarius, there is a religious flavor to this. I've heard one astrologer calling this the holy wars. You know, to me, it's the telling the truth. It's telling the truth. Saturn, you know, there's rules to Saturn, and Sagittarius just likes to talk and appreciates truth. So there, in this combination, it's kind of like people feeling required or impelled to tell their own personal version of the truth. So we'll see these themes more, and this will continue for the next few years. Now let's look and see how this Saturn is making aspects to other planets right now, to see how it's being sort of modified. Okay, so very important for those people who are between 4 to 9 degrees, so sort of the earlier degrees of Aries, Gemini, Leo, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. You guys are going to be experiencing this Saturn-Neptune square. The Saturn-Neptune square is where we go, here's tradition, here's, you know, religion, or how we've been taught to do things, and then here's just sort of intuition on the subject. So to me, these are these big themes of how your worldview has been created, and, you know, do you do it the way you've always done it, which is Saturn. Saturn wants to sort of look to the past to inform how to do things now in the future. Although Sagittarius is very future oriented, okay? Sagittarius is progressive and wants to improve things and fix things that aren't working properly, which is good. And then what about, it can be a little naive though, and that's why you have people who are spouting their opinions, or their, you know, fanatical even sort of beliefs. You know, you see this in social media, and you see this on TV and whatnot, people being very opinionated, even more so than usual, and kind of in your face with it, okay? And then you've got Neptune, which is in Pisces, which is this like pure version of Neptune. You know, Neptune rules Pisces, so it's a very, to me, formless kind of energy, hitting, you know, bumping up against Saturn, which is form. So they're very different from one another. So it's these questions of perhaps things that are right in front of your face that you're not seeing, or you're not admitting that you're seeing, okay? These issues of telling the truth, of truths being obscured. And then, of course, like I've said, these issues of religious rights versus sort of intuitive rights that we have as human beings. So these are themes that will continue and that we'll continue to see. But especially you guys, if it's Saturn square Neptune, I mean, Also, if you think of these just as sort of pure energy, Saturn restricts things and slows them down, and Neptune dissolves them or fogs them over, clouds them, depends on the planet. So if this is making a square, if perhaps your sun is creating a T-square, or your moon's creating a T-square, your own identity with your sun, your identity is going to be, you're going to be taking stock, taking inventory, okay? That's going to be the Saturn part. And then that Neptune part is going to perhaps put you in a place where you're interested in sort of the spiritual side of things. This could come out and you trying to escape through, as I said before, other means that are perhaps not as healthy, like drinking, but it can also be a way to escape through sort of spiritual means, at least to sort of dig deep and figure out what it is you believe. Saturn squaring Neptune could also sort of restrict or block. You might feel blocked spiritually even, almost like you're having to work through this on your own without like divine insight, sort of. You could have that as well. So let me know how it's affecting you. I'm really curious. It's a big formation that's going to be happening for us for quite a while. So I've got a little list of sort of keywords for you to think of, and think of how this might apply to you in your life. Okay, Saturn square Neptune. You've got, like I said, something in plain sight that's hidden from being seen. Rules and dogma squaring off with just pure spirit. So it's like letter of law versus the spirit of law. Reality and how things can become sort of clouded. Themes of religious leaders and inspiration. Pharisees versus the Sadducees. So Saturn actually in Sagittarius is a great example of a Pharisee. That's perfect, you know. It's like, this is all of our rules and our code of conduct and our law. This is our law, right? And then Jesus would be like Neptune. That's actually perfect. Neptune in Pisces is about as Jesus as you get. Delusional thinking, kind of over-the-top assumptions, unclearness, clouding the reality of the situation, and then also karmic wounds. So Saturn is quite karmic, so karmic wounds being triggered for healing. So these are all some big themes with this transit. Next, we've got our Uranus-Chiron quincunx. This, to me, is like the wound that's being created by revolution. On the world stage, we see this when we see refugees. We see this when we see people being murdered, okay? Chiron is the wound, and Uranus is unexpected revolutionary events or activities or even human beings. So, to me, this is the people that are being hurt by governments and sort of terrorist activities and people who are trying to force some type of a revolution, and it's the innocents who are injured in the process. Now, when you think about this personally, Uranus-Chiron can bring like anxiety in your personal life, depending on what it's affecting. 13 to 18 degree, let's see, Aries, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Pisces. If those planets are being affected by this Uranus-Chiron quincunx, then you will be experiencing perhaps anxiety or sort of a nervousness around whatever those planets rule, or how they're expressed in the personality. So let me know how you've been if you've had some anxiety, or if you've had sort of a sense of, it's kind of like being, with Uranus and Aries, it's the revolutionary, and it's making something happen. It's kind of not asking if this thing can happen, it's just making it happen. And Pisces, Chiron Pisces is the healer, but it's very spiritual, sort of unconscious. Next big transit that we have is our Pluto-Chiron sextile. So this is, I call this one, revolution abhors a power vacuum. All right, so this is those that are in power oppressing the weak, basically. It's dictatorial rule over the weak. Pluto and Capricorn is very much larger organizations that have power, and they have power to wield, to build their organization and to grow it. And Chiron and Neptune, or in Pisces rather, sorry, to me suggests, someone who is in a position that is a weaker position, okay? And they're being sort of forced into a certain path. So of course we see, again, refugees, we're seeing this. We're seeing also some government and healthcare issues will be big. And it's so funny, when I was preparing this, I was thinking about government and healthcare, but I was like, I don't know really what that means exactly. And then sure enough, on USA Today or something, I saw how you're going to be fined if you didn't have health insurance in the United States this last year. You'll be fined next year. So these themes, okay? It's a great example. So let's go ahead and jump into the forecast for the week. Sunday the 22nd, as I am filming this, I've titled this day, the theme for the day, kind of enthusiastic conversation. Our sun is in Scorpio. It's finishing up Scorpio. It's 29 degrees. It will move into Sagittarius tomorrow. So Sagittarius is going to be a time, obviously we've already got planets in Sagittarius, so it's going to be a time where we've got a nice little stellium happening. In particular, we'll have the Sun, Mercury, it's communication, and Saturn all joining one another. So to me, this is lots of conversation, information being shared, and because it's Sagittarius, there can be a sanctimoniousness to it, or a pedantic nature to the way that this information, this communication is presented. So we see this with world leaders and with religious leaders. They come from a background where they have different fundamental philosophies about how the world was created, about how, what humans' position and place should be in the world, and then what those human beings should be doing with their lives. We all come from many different backgrounds, many different wisdoms, sort of cultural wisdoms. So it'll be a time where this will big time be a theme. And of course we have seen with the terrorist attacks, we've seen the world community coming together somewhat, but this is going to be further amplified, especially into December. Okay. Now, in particular, we've got today on Sunday, we've got the moon in Aries. Moon in Aries, of course, is trining the Mercury that's in Sagittarius. Our Mercury has just moved into Sag. And so it's actually going to be technically separating today, but close enough. This is chatty conversation. This is, both fire signs. So lots of conversation. But there is a sort of, can be a little bit aggro because you've got Aries in there, it can be a little conversation that's a little over the top even. Somebody with the Mercury, we also have it in a Mars sextile. So, it's a Libra Mars. So this is definitely conversation with another person, and it's enthusiastic conversation, but it can be oversharing. It can be like drunk texting someone. It can be, gossiping, sitting too close to someone on the airplane and not shutting up. Like when you just be a little too much of, or advice giving. That's a little more with that Saturn and Sagittarius as well. It's kind of an advice giving placement for Saturn. So there may be some of that today on Sunday, kind of for the most of the week, actually. But back to our moon, with our moon, we also have a Moon-Mars opposition, which can give a little bit of an emotional reactivity. It's our Mars is in Libra, so Libra is more about coming together and finding common ground rather than, ending something or like, cutting someone off, Moon-Venus opposition. This is also Aries and Libra. And with this one, there is relationships are definitely an issue right now. And this is everything from romantic relationships to on the world stage, the way that countries come together and collaborate with one another. So these are the themes right now, big time. Relationship and your values. What do you value? What do you need from the relationship? And then we've got Moon, Saturn trine in Aries and Sagittarius. So to me, that's kind of a sombering, a slowing down of the lunar tendency to sort of be reactive or in these phases. It sort of shushes it a little bit. But it also is probably a time when there are leaders getting together to communicate with one another, speak with one another about world events. Moon Neptune quincunx between it's an Aries moon and a Pisces Neptune. So this is Moon Neptune in general is kind of a spiritual time. It's a really intuitive time, actually. So there's a little bit of that today, along with the Moon Pluto square. So this is powerfully. This can be a little bit obsessive, a little bit powerful, a little bit. I've heard of some people today have hangovers. Okay, to me this is kind of a little sort of Moon Pluto in a way. It's like square anyway. Overdoing with all the Sagittarius stuff. It's like overdoing things, and then the next day emotionally feeling a little like you just got beat upside the head. So there's that. All right, moving on to Mercury. Mercury is in Sagittarius now, and we've got that Mars-Mercury's sextile that I mentioned. That's that enthusiastic conversation. And then we've got it'll actually be approaching moving into a square with Neptune, which should be Wednesday, Thursday. So issues of the truth being somewhat obscured and hidden, and delusional thinking, like it's quite sort of reactive because, this is because of all the planets that are involved, okay? And Sagittarius can be naive at times in its overestimations of, its opinions or its, about how things should be done. So there's that. Mercury-Saturn conjunction. This is unsolicited advice. And this is going to be happening, this week, which is perfect on Thanksgiving week when we get to go see our families again and get advice about things that we didn't need advice about. Okay, so this Mercury-Neptune square also this week, that, as I said, that will be happening, coming more into power and into focus, if you can make a Mercury-Neptune come into focus, but Wednesday, Thursday, right at the time of Thanksgiving. How great. This is truly, on the high side can be discussions about higher power. It can be, about God, divinity, these existential questions. On the shadow side, it can be a totally foggy rationale, arguing from a place that's completely just something that you personally hold to be true, but that can be backed up in no truth, or fanatical thinking, delusional thinking. Think of terrorists or people who are using their religion as an excuse to be assholes, that kind of thing. That is fueled by Neptunian kind of thinking. All right. Also, this can be, with it, Sagittarius and Pisces, it can be a little over-promising and not delivering. So you could see a little bit of that as well on Wednesday and Thursday. But if I'm back to Sunday, though, it's not quite strong enough yet. It's just moving into position. Like we have like a 5-degree orb or so right now. So just, or maybe 6 degree. So just give it a few days, okay? Also, we've got Venus, Uranus moving into an opposition. They're at a 1-degree orb. So, and they're in of course, the zodiac signs that have to do with relationships. So this is the freak flag, is a fly-in, okay? And it's also, it can be a time for a desire for freedom from relationship, or a desire to do something to your relationship that shakes it up a little bit, makes it a little bit different. Like I, for example, last night just, hung out at home and just broke a pattern, not even anything to do with this forecast. I just felt like I wanted to just do my own thing. And it was an Aries moon, and I'm an Aries moon. So it's like, I want to just be home by myself. So that would be an example of how this might play out for you. Now, this is also Venus opposite Uranus, Libra, Aries. Uranus is the revolutionary, okay? Venus, to me, in Libra, France is a Libran country. The United States is a sun in the 7th house, that's the Libran house. So to me, the United States has a Libran quality to it as well. So this is a little bit on the world stage, what's happening between obviously the big major players and the terrorists. So just a side note. Venus-Pluto square, this is, to me, rules of engagement, whether it's in your relationships, whether it's on the world stage, okay? So what are the rules of engagement? Someone wants to have control and power over the decisions that are being made, and someone is willing to maybe go with the flow, but to harmonize and to find compromise, because it's Libra. So it's to bring everyone together. They're willing to sort of be told what to do to a certain extent, but and it's separating, so there's that. Chiron Venus quincunx, this is in Libra and Pisces, so this is are we soulmates or are we playmates? What are we to one another? And not really being it's not like Neptune where it's not clear, but it's just sort of this wound can come out from this, a painful event, or you could have something happen where you there's a wound that needs to be healed. And through Venus, through Venusian experiences like art, music, lovemaking, these are ways to heal and to figure out, there's a place for soulmates and there's a place for playmates. So figure out where you're at and what it is that you're wanting in your relationships, right? Let's see, Mars, we've got Mars-Saturn sextile. So Libra Mars and a Sagittarius sextile is exact. This is, again, debating about the roadmap to peace and harmony, arguing about what a proper relationship should be, possibly planning for collaboration. And Mars-Saturn to me is holding it in place. Saturn is the reins, is the brakes. So to me, action's not being taken yet. And to me, on the world stage, I think of this Mars-Libra as the coalition of all these big major powers. It's just in my mind and when I'm looking at charts, that's just sort of who that is to me. So it's like they're waiting. Okay, all the world leaders are sort of waiting. And because we have the Mars-Neptune, there's a Mars-Neptune quincunx, and also that approaching Neptune-Mercury square, which makes people kind of not think clearly or be paranoid or be delusional. You know, we're going to be seeing that a little bit this week. And that's why action's not perhaps being taken, because they're not sure which action to take, what to believe, okay? Mars-Neptune quincunx, oh, I just mentioned that. Jupiter-Uranus quincunx, this is separating, and this is that shooting off half-cocked thing I was mentioning. And then the Jupiter-Chiron opposition, which is this time of healing. Jupiter being in Virgo, Chiron in Pisces. Also, this is this analysis. Jupiter in Virgo is very much kind of analytical to me. And it's also, Virgo, you know, rules health, your daily habits, how you care for your body. So, you know, it's a good time. It's a really good time for your health regime and putting some focus and some attention on what you're doing to take care of your body. On the world stage, to me, this is just straight up Jupiter is the benefic and Chiron is the wounded, and so it's people helping those who need to be helped on the broader, bigger world stage. All right, Monday the 23rd, I've titled this day "Them's Be Fightin' Words," because you know you got the sun moving into Sagittarius, and it will be joining Mercury and it'll be joining Saturn, and then you've got a little bit of Mars, that Mars in Libra, which is sextiling, you know, sextiling the sun, so it amps up that already sort of the bigness to Sagittarius, the boldness, there's this optimism and over the top sort of attitude to Sagittarius. So the language we hear may be a little riskier. There's a boldness and a fervor to it. There's like this aiming high thing, this wisdom also of, you know, wisdom of the ages and people thinking that they know best, as I've said many times already. Also looking to history. So history is going to be kind of a big theme that we'll be hearing a lot this month, you know, looking back into the past to see what the United States has done with, you know, during past conflicts, what actions we've taken and which actions have been successful and which actions have not. There can also on the shadow side be a little bit of a loudness and a naivete, as I said earlier, and a sort of a overlooking the details, over-promising, judgment that's maybe just judgment in general. The Sagittarius is, you know, there's a wisdom to Sagittarius, but sometimes they think their wisdom is the only wisdom kind of a thing. And then on the high side, there's this helpfulness and there's a morality and there's a desire to fulfill one's promises. So there's, you know, good and bad to Sag, of course, like all of the zodiac signs. So look for these themes in your life. Now we have a Sun-Mercury conjunction approaching, of course, which we've talked about already. So communication and talking, we're going to see more of this happening, more of the oversharing, more of the gossip, close talking on the plane thing. That's the Mercury-Mars sextile in Libra, you know, Mars in Libra. So on Monday, we've got our moon in Aries. So we have a Moon-Venus opposition that's separating, okay? We have the Moon-Jupiter quincunx, which will just be an amping up sort of emotions and these reactive emotions. And this is in Aries. So this is kind of fighting. That's why I say these fighting words, right? Then we've got Moon-Jupiter quincunx as well, which is further expansion, Moon-Uranus conjunction, which is unexpected words or unexpected emotional reactions. I'm saying words because it's kind of ties into Mercury as well. And then we've got a Moon-Chiron quincunx. So the Moon-Chiron quincunx is, you know, painful wounds that are being exposed. So I imagine that Monday will be a day where there's a lot of debate and arguing perhaps happening and a lot of you know, I am seeing some action this week that's violence of some kind. So because looking at ISIS and their chart and seeing how things are lining up for them and the United States as well, there's a suggestion that there will be some sort of Martian activity. And Mars is, you know, that rules guns and it rules things that are going to, you know, knives and swords and things that hurt other people. So to me, not necessarily on Monday, there could be because it is in Aries, but I'm seeing more for Tuesday. I'm seeing that Tuesday is a day where it's a really interesting formation lines up in the sky with Pluto as sort of the apex of this formation. So I'm thinking that Tuesday is the day it happens. I think that Monday is the day that things are going to be getting into position and into place because Mercury also rules movement of transportation vehicles, okay, and airplanes and things like that. So to me, it's sort of perhaps getting all ready to go with everything. And then that Taurus moon on Tuesday, if I've got my time correct for ISIS and with the chart that I have for that organization, I have them as a 0-degree Leo moon, which I think fits them, their level of hubris. And this Taurus moon will make a square to that. So to me, I see them doing something on Tuesday. Plus, we'll talk about Tuesday in a sec. So anyway, with that, just a side note, as far as my world events go, because I like studying mundane astrology. Next, we've got our Venus-Uranus opposition. So again, this is that freak flag flying. This is discussions about open relationships, perhaps. You might talk with your partner about wanting to go have a fling or something. It can be a time where in social media, we may hear discussions about the opportunity to, instead of saying I'm single or I'm divorced or I'm like being able to maybe write your own version of what's happening. I live with a unicorn, whatever your relationship status is. Okay. And I know they have done something with, like, if you've broken up with, someone, and then they have some new apps so you can be stealthy about how you change your status on Facebook. But I think there'll probably be an announcement about something that has to do with, naming the relationship, whatever it is you want to name it, this week. Also, we've got you're combining art and science, scientific revolution. So we might see some interesting, maybe with the science of love and relationships, we may see some things this week about some new breakthroughs or I'm not sure, but kind of combine those in your head and see what you can come up with. Let me know what you think. Next, we've got Venus-Pluto squaring. So that's that Libra Venus and that Capricorn Pluto. Libra Venus is like a really pure Venus because Venus rules Libra, okay? So it's very much about all the high side of both symbols. This is harmonizing, bringing together, sort of coalescing two parts and getting to a place of homeostasis. So when you've got that squaring with the Pluto and Capricorn, it's about power and relationships. And so to me, it's, over about large institutions and the power they have over our relationships or the way that we receive pleasure in our lives. And it's a separating aspect, but there may be a little bit more to hear about. There may be some more articles and whatnot about gay marriage and or people fighting it, or states that have been fighting it, things like that. You may hear some more about that. But it is separating. So to me, it won't be a big headline, okay? Venus also is making a quincunx to Chiron. This to me is an escape in a sense. It's an escape into the formless because it's a Pisces Chiron, but it's for healing. So an escape into the formless for healing. This is sensual pleasures, maybe involving water. I love baths, love them. And I've been taking them a ton lately just because they help me get grounded kind of. And this is for healing feeling to me. And it's colder than a witch's tit here too. So there's that. This could also be things like simple things like romantic movies or books or, fantasy, some sort of fantasy gaming. It can be drinking or drug use, and it can be art creation. So all of these themes are sort of an undercurrent, emotional sort of undercurrent that's happening this week for us. So look where it falls in your chart to know for sure how it will affect you. Moving on to Mars, we've got a Mars-Saturn sextile. This is solidifying who to collaborate with. We'll see a lot of this both on the world stage and people who are, doing collaborative art projects together or online businesses or, you name it. I mean, this is Libra. So Libra is very much the arts, and Libra is, it's Mars in Libra. So Mars is taking action in a way that is beautiful, or it's diplomatic, or it's harmonizing, or it's balanced, or it's fair, okay? Fairness is huge. My gosh, I just thought of that. Fairness, fairness, fairness. With the Venus in Libra, which is very much about balance and being fair. And with Sagittarius, that's huge theme. I'm like huge for this month. Okay, next, Mars also is in a Neptune quincunx. This can be that foggy kind of inaction. It can be taking action in a way that's deceptive. It's hiding things. It can be that too. So there can be a sense on the world stage as well that things are happening behind the scenes, which obviously they always do, I'm sure, but even more so. And collaborations, this is also this Mars and Libra. So it's these people coming together, groups coming together sort of secretly. And This is religion too. Neptune is spirituality, so maybe coming together behind a cause, but maybe not necessarily fully in the reality of, you know, what is it they're doing, I suppose. So also can be a little dangerous. Isis does have a Venus Neptune 7-degree Venus Neptune, I believe it is. It's Venus, yeah. Square in their chart, and it's Gemini, Venus, and Neptune, of course, is in Pisces. So 7 degrees is an important, when you're looking at transits, it's an important number that activates them because it's in their 8th house, the house of, which would be their house of sort of destruction. It's their chart ruler as well. So shocker. And they have black. They wear black. It's so funny. Their chart ruler is in the Scorpio house, and that's all their stuff is black. It's very Scorpio. Okay, and Mars is conjunct their ascendant too, of course, because that's what they are. They're a warring organization. They're here to cause pain and destruction. That's what they're all about. So for Tuesday, we have an interesting formation kind of come into position. We've got our moon moves into Taurus, and Taurus is, you know, this is an earth sign. It's the one that I think of. It's the object in motion remains in motion. So if it's sitting on the couch, it's going to remain in 0 motion. If it's moving, it's going to remain, you know, whichever direction they're kind of headed in, they tend to keep doing it. So it gives a power to, and a stubbornness to the emotional kind of feel for the day, the days. Now on top of that, we've got Mars, which is in Libra, moving into position to make a sextile to Mercury, which is moving to conjoin with Saturn. Okay, so that to me is, and it's at 6 degrees. So this is significant because if you look at Isis's chart, they've got many of their planets at 7 degrees. Okay, their Sun will be activated by this, their Venus, their Neptune. So, and it's that Venus Neptune, that's that fanaticism. That is that belief that God has given them, has called them to this duty, or to this, that their terrorism is a calling, a religious calling, and it's their job to bring forth, or to open the, to get rid of the infidels so that Jesus can come again. Okay, that's their, okay. So anyway, they will be, this will be activated by Mercury, by Mars, which is taking action, and by Saturn. Now Saturn is in this, you know, in Sagittarius, that's that, well, we believe we have the right to do this because we're looking back in the past, and this is our right, okay? This is our the way things should be, the way things should be done. So while they're Scorpio, and then their Scorpio Saturn in their chart is at 17 degrees. So that's going to be activated by the moon. Most likely, you know, it's like everything is lining up to sort of bing, 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 like hit a bunch of things in their chart. So we shall see. But in my mind, most likely there will be some sort of action taken on Tuesday by Isis. That would be my guess. But on the high side, you know, this is how this may affect you, especially if you're someone who's got 6 degrees of mutable, or even, I would even say, so someone who's got 2 degrees to like 7 or 8 or so degrees of the mutable or the cardinal signs. You're going to feel this somewhere in your life. Look at the houses that it falls into. That will tell you how it affects you. There's going to be activity. There's going to be movement, moving to sort of collaborate and to come together, okay? Also on Tuesday, another interesting aspect would be the Venus-Uranus opposition. It's, you know, basically exact. This is the freak flag, and it is also in Isis in their chart. I will say that their Venus is important in their chart because it's their chart ruler. And for them, it's their love of war, their love of destruction. So having Venus in Libra opposing Uranus, the revolutionary, it's this energy that's the freak flag. And it is something that's going to be pleasurable and enjoyable to them would be enacting violence. That's what they're all about. So, you know, all these things together suggest they are perhaps going to be doing something. Now, the interesting part is we, of course, have at the same time this Neptune that's at 7 degrees, and it's opposing our Mercury. So to me, this is being a little bit foggy-headed and a little bit paranoid even, or delusional or fanatical. And it also could be that we as Americans here in the United States have a bit of hubris about our power, and may not be prepared for what might happen. So, I mean, I hope nothing happens, but there is a suggestion that this action will happen on our soil, because also we have had Mars is now in the 10th house of the United States, of our national chart. So that the 10th house would suggest that's our government, that's our seat of power. You know, it's Washington D.C. I don't necessarily know that this is going to happen in Washington D.C. I think that's going to be actually next month, but just my prediction. But also this chart ruler of the United States is Jupiter. It's Cancer Jupiter, and it will be activated by by the things that are happening on Tuesday. So if you have a chance, look at the chart just for Tuesday. It's really a pretty cool formation. If you can make a chart for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, just watch how it progresses, how the chart changes, the animation of it. It's you can see it go from pretty quiet on Monday to busier, this really symmetrical T-square with a grand trine. They line up together with Pluto at the top, okay? And Pluto, as you know, Pluto is explosive power, and so to me it's a pretty intense day. And with the moon being in Taurus, which squares both, of course, our Aquarius moon, and it squares Isis's moon, to me it's like this is an emotional activation or a reaction, or there's something that's going to sort of trigger both organizations. That's why I'm thinking maybe something might happen here in the U.S. Again, hopefully not, but Tuesday would be my day, and then it turns into kind of a shitstorm Wednesday, Thursday. I mean, the formations are really fascinating. So if you have time, take a peek at it. It's pretty cool. Now, on to, as far as the individual, I'm not going to go too much into the individual, the other aspects that happened that day, because we've already mentioned them. So just, bear the other days in mind when you're thinking of Tuesday. The one thing I will mention, because we've got Mercury, and we've got, what else? We've got Mars, and we've got, of course, Saturn and Neptune. They're all right around 6 or 7 degrees. Okay, so do you see these are all talking to each other? And this is also transportation. This is like secretly moving things and getting them where they need to be. And with Neptune there's that ability to obscure things, to hide things. That's why I'm thinking this is going to be something that's, done quite stealthily. The other thing to consider is our Pluto is in Capricorn at 13 degrees or so, I believe. Yeah. And so that is making a trine to the moon as well. Moon to Pluto is, I think of underground. So I think of, or hidden, and with Neptune. So we'll see. We shall see. In your life, you may just feel like Tuesday's a pretty intense day, especially those of you who have, signs that are in the early, 3 to 8 or so, like I was saying, of the mutable or the cardinal signs. It'll be a day of could be a day of high emotion, or a day of some heated words. You've got if you're someone who's got strong mutable signs on your sun and your moon, you're going to be affected by this formation. So there's be fighting words. And it's also kind of, I like this, I kind of feel like I want to name this day title, and also sort of like this is, there be monsters. On Wednesday the 25th, day before Thanksgiving here in the U.S., we've got interesting things lining up, but we've got, first of all, Venus and Uranus will be separating from one another, so that suggests that an event has happened and it's separating, so it's moving away from, and it's moving into the wrapping up phase, okay? And because Venus is that freak flag thing I mentioned to you, the revolutionary energy or activity. At the same time, we've got Mercury and the Sun together, okay? So this is a communication, it's in Sagittarius, so it's that lots of communication, the optimistic but yet opinionated, type of communication. This close speaking, close talking. Sextiling, because it's sextiling Mars, right? That's in Libra, so it's this, communication in the setting of a relationship or collaboration, okay? This is then going to be squared. You've got the Mercury and the Sun being squared by Neptune, and you've got the Mars being quincunxed by Neptune. Mars, anytime you quincunx Mars, it's kind of a tense, to me it's a tense sort of a expression. Okay, so to me, I feel like this is a very reactive day. Plus, then we've got Jupiter and Pluto, our Venus, our Virgo Jupiter, and our Capricorn Pluto are trining the moon. You know, we've got this kind of explosive reactive trines to Pluto and then to Jupiter by that Taurus moon. So, I don't know. I feel like this combination is a very reactive day. That's why, to me, I feel like Tuesday something perhaps happened, and then Wednesday's this joining forces because you know, there'd be monsters, and so you got to, like, you know, bring military action to ISIS. With Wednesday, how it may play out in your life, it could be an intense day. Again, another intense day, especially for those of us who have mutable, or as I said earlier, those cardinal signs that are in the earlier degrees. You may really sense sort of so there could be some power struggles, there could be some reactive kind of emotions that day, etc. Okay, so let's move on to Thursday, which is Thanksgiving for those of us in the U.S. Interesting day, a lot of things happening on Thursday. Let's talk about this on the mundane world stage level first, and then let's talk about this personally, how this might affect you around the Thanksgiving gobbly table. So on the world stage, we've got the sun with Mercury. Mercury is moving sort of away from the sun now, and Saturn is in the mix, opposing our moon, because it's going to be a Gemini full moon. So anytime you have planets opposite one another, opposing one another, there's a tension there. And this is an emotional planet. It's, of course, it's our moon. It's this reactive planet. And opposite these planets in Sagittarius, this is and Saturn is in the mix. So this is, you know, communication and ideas and thought based upon wisdom from the past, based upon sort of planning and structuring and organizing things. This moon opposite is going to be sort of this demand for action to be taken of some kind, or and then you throw in this into this mix. You've got our Neptune that's at 7 degrees, and let me look and see here really quick. So I have the exact degrees. Now we're at 8 degrees with our Mercury. So to me, this is like the stupid is strong with them on this day, because Neptune and Mercury are going to be squaring one another. And this will really be when people are arguing, because it's the Mercury's in Sagittarius. They're discussing something from a place that's really not based in any fact. Okay, it's just sort of their feeling, how they feel about it. Because at the same time, you've got the moon opposing, you know, it's opposing Mercury. So it's this emotional, reactive kind of language. And I think also because on this day, it's the day right before Saturn makes its exact square to Neptune. So this is going to be opinionated communication and people stating their opinions without basing them kind of in any real fact. Okay, so a lot of discussions and probably arguments around the dinner table relative to things that have to do with, you know, all of the latest laws that have been passed on gay marriage, for example. I mean, things that have happened this year, the decisions that the courts have made, because that's Sagittarius, and sort of there's an ushering in of a new way of looking at social relationships, and so these will be topics that people will be discussing over turkey dinner, and like it's going to give people indigestion, I think. And then plus, if anything does happen during that week, of course, if there is indeed an event on Tuesday, then that's going to be a big part of discussion. What should we do? What about these refugees? Because that's the Chiron stuff that we have and the Neptune stuff. These refugees, that, you know, should we allow them to come? Should we give them asylum, or should we not? You know, or is that just going to put us in a position of vulnerability? Okay, so people will be pretty heated again still, and these debates are going to be ones that maybe don't have clear answers right now. So that's going to be a big part of Thanksgiving. Now, on the high side, I don't mean to be negative, you know. On the high side, let's think this Gemini moon is a time for discussions. It's a time when it's an air sign, so cooler heads tend to prevail in a sense, right? It's well, I shouldn't say cooler heads. I should say it like this. There's still this desire to discuss. We need to discuss this. We need to talk about this. Both Gemini and Sagittarius it's a lot of discussion, a lot of getting it out in the open. That's why I say it's, can be kind of argumentative, especially when you throw in that Mars that's making aspects and sextiling everything, and it's activating it. So these discussions will be heated, they'll be opinionated, and with Saturn in there, it's that throws in that the self-righteousness, throws in that element. And it also throws in this element of people who are coming from maybe the left, who are saying that people who are in power need to be more fair, this kind of thing. So expect it to be a Thanksgiving where you prepare yourself for slightly irrational arguments, reactive sort of conversation, emotional outbursts even, people wanting to talk about something ad nauseum. You might get a little sick of hearing people's opinions on Thanksgiving. Advice being given, because that's our Saturn Sagittarius, it's like unsolicited, but like a lot of it. People having an opinion of how like the food should be made. Oh, it's not how grandma would make it, it should be made this way, Friday, we've got a lot of the same. Main changes for Friday, our moon is still in Gemini. We do have some separations happening, which is good. We've got, of course, the Venus is separating from Uranus. It's helpful. Friday the 27th, the main event on Friday is going to be the Saturn-Neptune exact square. So you'll have already felt it by the 2 days before. I mean, we're already feeling it. So Friday, I feel like Friday is kind of this winding down day or reaction day. There's a lot of separating aspects happening that day. So I feel like it's going to be a day where there's reaction taking place. And because you've got the moon in Gemini and then it moves into Cancer, perhaps discussion about the homeland, about family, about safety and security will be big topics, I would imagine. Cancer, of course, it's the sign of our country. We're a Cancer country. So I think that's apropos that our moon will move into Cancer on Sunday, right after Thanksgiving, for those of us in the U.S., of course. And so, keep your eye out for, the moon's also going to be opposing Pluto. So it's a time that's powerful emotionally. It can be, as I said, reactive, emotions coming out that can be even destructive. And Cancer moon that's the moon in all her glory. That's, the moon that's all about protecting and providing space and room, that's safety for, something to grow. So it's the home. So it's protecting the home. So it might be, these themes could be popping up from some of the discussions that happen on Friday. So I think overall that's probably the most important things we'll be seeing that day. Just sort of this whole week is really pretty emotionally reactive and intense because you're making all these aspects to powerful outer planets, and then you've got these stelliums, and anytime you have stelliums, especially when they line up on important points in your chart or in national charts, then you see things happen. Okay, so Friday's kind of more reactive though. All right, last but not least, we've got Saturday the 28th. So on Saturday we see the Sun and Saturn coming closer together to one another for a conjunction. And Mercury is still in the mix, but Mercury is separating and moving away from those two. So, that, again, pompous isn't the word. It's just this sort of self-righteous language is really pretty powerful. It's pretty powerful during this entire week. And Mercury is moving away from it, so the discussions, they're still going to be happening, of course, but it's just there's a separating aspect. This day is really, like, I'm looking at the chart right now, and it's kind of an unorganized day. A lot of squares and just interesting things happening. You do have a grand cross between Pluto, Uranus, the Moon, and Venus. Venus is sort of the oddball there. It's actually kind of the Venus-Mars midpoint, I would say. And so Venus and Mars both actually, Mars obviously plays plays a role when we're talking about war. Venus does as well, believe it or not. And so the midpoint between these two is going to be right around, like, what, 15 or so degrees, I think, of Libra, 17 degrees or something. And so, even though these two planets, neither of them are exactly within orb to complete this T-square, the midpoint of them is. So that's Mars and Venus, yin and yang, in Libra, right at about the middle of Libra. So to me, this is pretty powerful T-square, and it's the moon, when the moon is exactly opposite Pluto, and with Uranus mixed in, it could just be very reactive in a time where, again, some action might be taken, some sort of action. Libra also is the zodiac sign it's France's sign, and for the United States, this formation falls into the 10th house of the United States, and the midpoint of Mars and Venus are right about on the Saturn of the United States chart, the national chart, which then makes a square to the sun. So to me, I mean, seeing revolutionary T-square action happening with our, Uranus and Pluto, and the moon reactive, and it's also the home in Cancer, which is like, right? That's to me, the United States, it's something powerful is going to transform the United States this week, is what I'm trying to say. So I hope it's not anything violent, of course, but I just think that if the stars are showing us signs, astrology is all about the correlation between the formations in the heaven and then, of course, the synchronous events that happen here on Earth. It's not causal, but there's a reason we studied astrology all these years, and there's a reason that political leaders and business leaders and people in positions of power and control have used astrology to guide their decisions, because it can give us insight that we would be blind to otherwise. So I just encourage you to look at the upcoming charts for this week, kind of look at each day, see how they affect you in your life, and be prepared for a week that is one with a lot of debate. Remember to let things go. If someone wants to give you advice, let them give you advice. Sagittarius, remember, Sagittarius is coming from a good place. Sagittarius times are ones where ultimately the purpose and the intention is meant to sort of help you. It's just, at times their way they're going about it is maybe a little much. So thanks for watching this. Let me know what you thought, and if you have any ideas about what you think might be happening and might be in store for us this week. Okay, have a good one. Have a great Thanksgiving, all of you fellow Americans. Okay, bye guys.